In all the Brahmand, who narrated the first story and to whom? The first story was told by Shiv to Shakti. It said that Shiv is all knowing. However, he was keeping all his knowledge within, staying alone, not talking to anyone, choosing instead to remain in deep meditation with his eyes closed. The gods decided that this could not continue and the knowledge should be passed on to human beings. So they prayed to the Devi and asked her to marry Shiv and make him share all his knowledge. After their wedding, their conversation became the source of all knowledge. It's known as Shiv Shakti Samvad and is the origin of the Vedas and Tantra. Hello and welcome to my channel. I am reading book Devlok with Devdutt Patnayak. It's a talk with Devdutt Patnayak ji and today I'm gonna start reading part 17 which I have already started, and the title is Storyteller of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. So let's continue. It is said that when Shiv was talking, imparting knowledge to Shakti, all the animals and birds also listened it. They then went and conveyed this knowledge to the rishis. That's why this gyan is called Shruti, which means to hear. It is also believed that Bhoot Pret, ghosts, and wandering souls spread certain stories since Shiv is closely linked with these beings. When all these stories were written, there were so many that they were titled Katha Sarita Sagar, the ocean of stories. And it all started with Shiv, who narrated the Ramayana for the first time. In the Balkand of Valmiki's Ramayana, Ram's son Love and Kush narrated it to him themselves. While hearing the story of this great king, Ram asks, "Whose story are you narrating?" The children say, "It's your story." He says the epic poem is so grand, the king is so great that he can't recognize himself in it. "I'm not that good," he says. The implication is that the Ram is their poetry is probably better than the real one. It's a beautiful beginning of the Ramayana. Is Valmiki's Ramayana considered to be the first Ramayana? Yes, it is. But whether he put down an existing story in poetry form or created the story, or whether he is just one of the many storytellers, is not clear. In the Adbhut Ramayana or Adhyatma Ramayana, it is said that the Ramayana was first told by Shiv to Shakti, which was heard by a crow called Kakbhusundi. Kakbhusundi went and told it to Narad, who told it to Valmiki, who then composed it as an epic poem called the Ramayana. Valmiki then narrated it to Love and Kush, who narrated it to Ram. Seen like this, who can we consider the origin of the story? Shiv, Kakbhusundi, Narad, or Valmiki? Why did he convert it into poetry? In ancient time, there existed the oral tradition. Valmiki may be called a writer, but he is actually a composer. For ordinary people, poetry was simpler, easier to understand and remember since there is a tune, a rhythm to it. Anustup Chand is one of the Vedic meters, a verse format like Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So the Mahakavya, the Ramayana and Mahabharata were composed in poetry form to make them easy to remember. There's an interesting story about Valmiki. After hearing the story of Ram, he was pondering over it in the forest when a pair of birds, Nar and Mada, male and female, flew towards him. One of them, the male, was killed by a hunter. His mate started to weep and kept circling the dead body in grief over their separation. Valmiki felt so bad that he cursed the hunter, but his words came out in rhyme. This was the first time is this was the first time his language found rhythm. It is said that shoka, sorrow, pain, gave rise to shloka, poetry. Inspired by this, Valmiki decided to compose the Ramayana in poetic form since it is the story of the separation of Ram and Sita. And it has various emotional elements like Karun, Vyatha, Viraha. So he imbued it with rhythm, rhyme, different figures of speech, melody. Did Hanuman also write the Ramayana? Valmiki composed the Ramayana in the oral tradition, but in Lok-kathas, it's said that Hanuman wrote the Ramayana. In calendar art, he is shown writing Ram's name repeatedly on the stones used to make the bridge to Lanka. We don't realize the significance of this, but up to the Maurya period, 2300 years ago, nobody wrote in India. We still followed the oral tradition. The first script, Brahmi, came into being in the Maurya period. After this, probably the Likhit Parampara, the written tradition, began. In the story, when Valmiki hears about Hanuman's Ramayana, he visits him and asks to see it. Hanuman shows him the banana leaf on which he has written it. After reading it, Valmiki burst into tears. Hanuman wants to know if it's that bad. Valmiki says that, on the contrary, it is so good that nobody will care for his Ramayana after reading Hanuman's version. On hearing this, Hanuman tears up the banana leaf, chews it, and swallows it. When Valmiki asks him why he did that, Hanuman says that his reason for writing the Ramayana was different from the rishis. While Valmiki composed the Ramayana so that people would remember him for his own fame and fortune, Hanuman wrote it to remember Ram, to discover Ram. This is a Lok Katha describing Hanuman's complete devotion. This concept can be applied to everything. What is the reason for doing any work? Is it for one's own name and fame, like Valmiki, or to discover God Ram in the work itself, like Hanuman? It is a story of bhakt, dedication, and devotion. So, this is it for today. I'll be back. Till then, keep listening beautiful stories and keep smiling.